I was thinking about the wedding cake, and see, we're having cake pops. Are they better than wedding cake?
If you made them keto.
It's just wedding cake on a stick.
Keto. If you had keto
That's
cake
like
pops.
asking if a corn dog's healthier than a hot dog.
It's on a stick.
Okay.
All right. I'm Charlie Ray. This is Dr. Pat Kennedy. This is John Rigdon, a nutrition guru extraordinaire. And we are going to talk tonight about how to stay skinny, how to lose weight, it's a popular topic. Everybody wants to know the answer.
When people look at me, they go, that guy is really skinny. So they probably want to take my advice. Right, John? Why did he laugh so much?
I don't know. He's a giggle bucks tonight.
Okay.
You're pretty healthy.
I've never in my whole life been called skinny. Never.
Right.
So that's
It's kind of an insult. I mean, you don't want to be.
You don't want to be skinny?
No.
Yeah, you don't want to tell. Like, I treat a lot of bodybuilders, and you say, dude, you look like you lost weight. They get offended.
They get
big
upset.
time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad. So you got to be careful. Yeah, I'm like one of those bodybuilders, I don't want to be too skinny.
So, all right. Well, you ready to dive in?
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in. All right. So, first thing I want to say about people that want to lose weight is there's kind of this idea that the first thing you got to think about is going to the gym. Mm-hmm. And I am a huge fan of going to the gym. It's a great way to get healthy. You get all kinds of fantastic benefits, but strictly for
weight loss
and fat burning, I'm going to say that it's 80% diet and 20% exercise. Okay.
I'm going to agree with you 100%.
But I have good news. At no point do you have to be hungry as you lose weight. At all. And you are not restricted by calories necessarily if you do it the right way.
Okay, you got my interest.
Yeah. And you can eat tasty things. You can eat steak and you can eat butter. You can eat cream. What are some other tasty things you can eat? Nuts.
Yeah.
Can be tasty.
Cheese.
If they're covered in salt.
Cheeses can be downright tasty.
And also a milkshake is pretty tasty.
And there are ways to do that.
Is there?
There are ways.
I want to hear it.
Yeah. So anyway, it comes down to you look at all these diets. You got the keto diet, you got the paleo diet, you got the low carb diet, you got the Mediterranean diet. What's the common thing with all of those diets?
A lot of fat consumption.
A lot of fat consumption. And then what are you not consuming as much of?
Sugar.
Carbs.
Sugar and carbs. Right. So what happens is if you eat sugar and carbs, your body burns those things immediately as fuel. And you got to realize that starches, which are things like potatoes and pastas and breads, those things break down into sugar. So they're almost like eating sugar as far as your metabolism goes. So your body has two ways of creating energy. One is if those things are present in a large quantity in the diet, your body's going to burn sugar for fuel. And that's where you're on that whole roller coaster of hungry all the time, crashing, burning, hangry, all of that stuff. If those things are not in your body for a couple of days, your metabolism actually switches to the way that it's actually naturally designed to work and prefers. It's more efficient. Your body, without those carbs around, actually burns your own fat stores as fuel. It breaks your fat stores into something called ketones, and the ketones are burned as fuel. Your brain burns the ketones. Your whole metabolism changes, and it's a healthier way to live. Your body lives. It's a cleaner fuel burning process, and so your body is healthier the longer that you're doing that. So eating fat can help you burn fat. It's completely counterintuitive, and it's the opposite of what we were told all through the 80s and really into the 90s. And the food pyramid is completely wrong because that was just a grain surplus. It had nothing to do with science.
We busted that myth in a previous
we talked
episode.
about that in another episode.
But here's a problem, and I want everybody to be careful out there, is that they're going to increase their fat because it tastes good and it's fun foods, and they're going to increase their carbs at the same time.
Well, if you eat more fat but you don't control your carbohydrates, you will swell up like a tick and explode. Okay.
Well, but
You will.
The other
That's a recipe for explosion.
The other component of eating fat, though, is the satiety that it provides. So if you're introducing a lot more fat in your diet, you're actually going to eat fewer carbs.
Because you feel satisfied.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, but I want to make sure they get it. So breakfast.
It's an incredibly important distinction, and I was actually going to say it
okay
in time, but the fact that you said it is great, and it is very important. It is the caveat. It's basically like if you are not restricting your carbs, I mean, it's really about carb restriction, but the tweak to it is that, interestingly enough, once you've taken the carbs out, the people that eat more fat as a percentage of calories as opposed to protein and the tiny bit of carbs that they might be getting, the more fat that they eat, the faster they lose weight.
Okay, so let's talk nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Breakfast. What do you do to have more fat, a little bit of protein, very little carb? What's a breakfast?
Eggs are fantastic.
Omelet,
Yeah.
bacon and eggs, sausage, ham, coffee, heavy whipping cream in your coffee, no sugar, no pancakes.
Veggies?
You can put veggies in your omelet.
Okay, like what?
You don't have to put in the
You don't have to. Well, you can eat them on the side. You can eat some mushrooms. You can eat some greens.
Spinach?
Spinach is excellent. No potatoes.
Okay.
No pancakes.
How
no muffins. No pastries. No bagels.
And we get this all the time.
No granola.
I have a multi-grain piece of toast.
Oh, the idea that the multigrain makes it healthy?
Right.
Wrong.
Okay.
Not true.
So,
in fact, multigrain actually, a lot of people that have allergies, it's going to be more likely to be irritating than even the white bread of all things.
So let's delineate. So someone just ate, an omelet with some heavy whipping cream mixed in there, and some cheese, and put some spinach and mushrooms and whatever veggies they want in there.
Yep.
And they had some bacon.
Yep.
And they had a coffee and they put some heavy whipping cream in there.
Yep.
That meal versus pretty much the same thing, but someone had a couple slices of multi-grain, really healthy bread. What happens between those two meals?
Yeah, so Steve came in the other day, and we were talking about the keto diet, and he was asking me about oatmeal. Whether oatmeal was okay for him to eat in the morning, and I was he asked if it was healthy, and I was like, well, actually, oats are pretty healthy. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in oats. But if you're trying to lose weight, you shouldn't eat them. Now, if you're happy with the weight you're at, or if you're trying to gain weight, then you can eat that stuff. But we're talking about weight loss, and you want to avoid it. You want to avoid the toast, the multigrain toast. You want to avoid the oatmeal, the cereal. They can be healthy, but they're not going to facilitate weight loss.
Let me say it this way, Doc. If you eat a bowl of oatmeal with a glass of orange juice, in terms of the effect that it has on your blood sugar, it's the equivalent to eating a bowl of Skittles and drinking a root beer.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Even though, now, for health-wise, it was a whole lot better to eat the oatmeal.
I qualified it in terms of the impact on your blood sugar.
Much more nutrient dense.
And blood sugar, that's that whole metabolism. Are we burning sugar or are we burning our own fat?
Okay. So if somebody is eating the, omelet with the heavy whipping creams, more fat, cheese, more fat, and some vegetables in there and some bacon, more fat, again, some protein.
Mm-hmm. Delicious.
Versus all that plus adding a couple slices of toast. You're saying that when you add the toast in there, their blood sugars are going to go up.
You're messing it all up.
You're evoking an insulin response, and that's what you don't want to do, because insulin tells your body to store fat.
Insulin is a storage hormone.
Okay, so you just hit it. This is where I think people mess up, and that is they say, I just had a small piece of toast. And what you're saying is, once you introduce that carb in there, even though
all bets are off.
All bets are off. So now all that extra fat you just put in there, now the body burns that carb and says, hey, I'm going to take care of this. All that fat you just ate, we're going to store that as fat. So that's why people blow up, like you just said, blow up like a tick and explode.
Right. So here's a way of thinking about it. Your body can only be burning sugar or its own fat stores. It can't do both at the same time. And what happens is when the carbohydrates are present with the fat and the other stuff, the body has to deal with the carbohydrates first. Because your blood chemistry, your brain is fueled by the sugar. If the sugar level is too high, your blood chemistry gets off, you could die. So what does your body do? Your body releases insulin and says, get that excess sugar the heck out of here. And the body's like, where do I put it? And the body says, I don't care. And, so the body's like, well, we'll just make fat. We'll just put it in our fat. Mm-hmm. So it just makes fat to get it out, because at that point, it's a toxic level of sugar.
Oh, this is good. This is so good. I hope people are understanding this. That the bigger and the fatter, I'm sorry, but the fatter you get, it's actually to protect your brain.
Yes. Your body's trying to protect itself, and it's taking the toxic food that you're eating, which is the excess carbohydrates, and storing it as fat.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing what your brain will go through and your body to protect itself. It's a protective mechanism to gain weight, because your body has to deal with this, because if you have too much sugar in your system, it's going to be toxic, and your brain's going, can't have it, so I don't care what you do with it, let's convert it into fat. And even if you just go, well, I had a salad and I had some protein and I just had a couple potatoes, and you go, or a little bit of rice, or I just had a small piece of the roll.
But you're activating that process.
You activate the process and you're done.
And here's what happens. So okay, your body released the insulin, right? And it did its job, right? It got all that sugar out of the bloodstream into the fat storage. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the problem: is insulin in and of itself is damaging to the body tissue. It's not as bad as the sugar, but it's still got its own issues. So your body then releases a different hormone to mop up the insulin.
What is that?
Glucagon is a different hormone. It comes in to clean up the insulin. So what happens then? You've gone through this whole rigmarole that's been very stressful on your body, and finally the glucagon gets the insulin put away, and it's now your blood sugar level has dropped. It's too low. Your body's exhausted from the process, but it's still in sugar burner mode. Now there's no sugar in your bloodstream. What's it gonna do?
I need more sugar.
Make you hungry. You're gonna crave sugar and carbs.
Yeah. It's a bad cycle.
So it's a drug-like trap cycle. Wow. And so then we've got this beautiful thing where we don't mess with the carbohydrates, and we eat the fat and the protein, which is how, the whole paleo idea is that, cavemen didn't have access to sugar. They didn't have crops. They didn't have grains. They didn't have potatoes. They ate what they could kill, and they ate some plants that were around and some roots and a few things, and that was about it. So the idea is that's what we were kind of designed to eat as cavemen. So it's a caveman diet. The keto diet is it's just they kind of looked at the science and they're like, keto's kind of this even more aggressive approach to weight loss, where they're like, oh my gosh, adding more fat helps you lose more weight.
Which one's healthier though? Keto or Mediterranean? Or paleo?
I think keto's a little extreme. I don't think it's sustainable. I think it's highly effective for someone who needs to lose weight because it's going to get that.
So maybe it's a
response.
medical purpose.
I think
Sure.
people can do well on any of them, and there are good ways to do Mediterranean, bad ways to do Mediterranean, and that's like a whole different topic. It's a big topic. But I think any one of those is going to be so much better than what most people do that I would invite them. I'd be comfortable recommending any of those 3 diets. So if anything today, we've got across the idea that it's not fat that's making us fat. It's really the carbohydrates that are the problem. We introduced a couple of different diet concepts that people could look into and kind of gave a big idea about how they work. So you got keto, you've got paleo, you've got Mediterranean. And if nothing else, this would hopefully provoke some curiosity where people could look into those diets and see which one might work for them. And the great thing about doing these diets is about 2 days of not eating carbs, guess what happens to your appetite? You can go all day without eating. You don't even think about food. It's like food loses its grip on you because you're balanced. And people actually that do these diets, they can fast for days and not even sweat it, which is also healthy. And that could be a whole different topic. We could talk about intermittent fasting and how that's healthy. But
when I was eating a lot of carbs, couldn't fast. And now that I eat very little carbs,
it's easy to do.
Once a week, I try to fast for 24 hours. And people go, how can you do that? It's not that
hard.
big a problem.
It's not that big a deal. And that's wonderful for health. So anyway, keeping the pounds off, it's a great way to be healthy. And hey, people want to look good. That's a good thing too. I'm not opposed to that. Let's all look good and feel good and be healthy.
There you go. In a nutshell.
There we go. Fat's where it's at.
Fat is in.
And the doctor within likes to eat fat. And that's why we do this show. The doctor in here
is smarter than any doctor out there.